In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the new UV tools in Cinema 4D S22 alongside some of the improvements in the viewport and selections. So first of all, let's go up to the layout drop-down menu and select the new Body Paint UV Edit layout. It's a very convenient layout because it allows us to work with a lot of the new tools, and a lot of thought has been put into it. So let me zoom in here. The first thing I want to do is get rid of some of these background elements to make it easier to work. So let's go to Options and Configure. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, in the save frames, make sure that the save frames are off because I don't want to see those gray bars. And I'm going to go to the Filter and remove certain things. So first of all, the world axes, the work plane, the world grid, if that was on, and the horizon. So now we have a clean view in here. Now if I select the object, you can see that this is the result we are going to get to. Very nicely defined UV islands, and with the minimum amount of seams on these. So the arms are stitched top and bottom, and the legs front and back, and so forth. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is remove this UV tag and take it from the very beginning. First of all, how do we create a UV tag? There are many ways, but we can go to the Tags menu, go to Material Tags and set UVW from Projection. I can select the projection. If I go to the Gear icon, I'm going to select Flat for now. And I'm not going to use this flat projection for anything meaningful. I just want a UVW tag to be there for me. So let's begin by doing some component selections. And talking about components, let me tell you one of the highlights of S22's UV advancements. And that is that the polygon edge, yes, and points now work without any other switches. So for example, if I get my live selection tool and select some UV polygons, and then with my move tool, I can move them here in UV space, and I can move them here in 3D space without any switch, and that's fantastic. Let me undo. Command Z a couple of times will undo everything. Click here to deselect. And you can see this is all red. That's because I'm using some of the view settings, and I'm seeing the overlapping polygons. You can see that we have a lot of functionality in here. We are going to visit some of these as we go. For now, I'm just going to set it to lines so I can concentrate on my lines. So let's begin cutting this fellow down. I'm going to go to Edges mode, and we have this fantastic new set of tools here. And UV Unwrap and UV Weld and Relax are going to be our friends over here. And the way this works is the following. First of all, we need a edge selection. So I'm going to zoom in here, and with my move tool, I'm going to double click over here and create this loop selection. Now the UV Unwrap works slightly differently when edges are selected or polygons are selected. And you can see the differences if you click on the gear icon here. We have three settings. One of them is a restrict to polygon selection, which I'm going to keep on, although default is off. I find that more useful. I'm going to press cancel. If I go to the polygon selection, you will see that the first option is not available because it implies, if you're using polygon selections, that those are the ones you're going to apply to. Anyway, cancel here. Let's go back to the edges. All I have to do is, with my edge selection, I just click once on this, and what it will do is use the edge selection to cut, and then it will unwrap and relax everything. And here we have the lower body below the neckline, and here is the head. So let's go and see how we can split the head right at the back as we usually do with heads. Now again, with the move tool selected, I'm going to go and shift click up here. And the reason I'm shift clicking is I want to retain this selection over here. And if we go to our selection menu and select loop selection, we will see that one of the new features down here is stop at selections. I'm going to click this on, and for good reason, I'm going to say stop at pause as well. I'm going to use this later on. I'm going to show you what it does. Now, what happens is that because stop at selections is active, when I do a loop selection, it's going to stop wherever there's a selection. So it's going to confine now the loop from this down to this. So I'm going to just shift click to add this. And you can see that we have a representation of that edge selection in the UV layout. The good thing is that I can go and do these selections in the UVs as well, using edges now, and we may need to use that later on. You can go between the 2D world and the 3D world just by switching your eyesight. Anyway, let's click UV Unwrap, and this is what's going to happen. And now we had the head unwrapped. So let me show you some other exciting features. I'm going to go to the ear, and what I'm going to do is select this. I still have the loop tool selected. You can see that because all these have these poles, the selection won't move downwards. If this was off, then if I shift clicked, it will go all the way down. But you can see it's doing all sorts of interesting selections there, which are not very useful. So stop at poles is a good way to control how your selections are going. And I'm just going to continue the selections by adding them using shift, and wherever it thinks it can, it will move by itself. So I'm going to go all the way around here, shift click, and you can see that we've gone all the way around. I'm going to shift click here, and you can see that we've done this little overshoot. The way I'm going to remedy this is quite simple. I'm going to go to my select and fill selection. I don't have to do this. I could have just removed that edge, but I'm just going to show you a few things. Now, watch this. I'm going to select these ears. Fantastic. And now, the other thing I can do is go to my edge selection and go and say outline selection. So it takes that polygon selection and it outlines it by creating an edge around it. Again, I didn't have to do this, but I'm just showing you various ways we can use the selection tools. Now that I have this edge selection around here, I want to cut both ears, but I'm too lazy to go to the other side and do the same selections. So we're going to take advantage of this new tool over here, which is called mirror selection. Now, if I click on the gear icon, you will see that it has some settings which space this symmetry, the mirror symmetry, is going to occur, ZY, if it's going to be the object or the world coordinates, and a tolerance. Now, mind you, the tolerance is very important because the way it searches for symmetrical points is by using the coordinate system. And we give it a bit of a tolerance just in case our model is not very symmetrical, but it's good to have a topologically symmetrical object. And we have three modes: add, subtract, and flip. Mostly we're going to work with the add. Going to click OK, and you will see that now my selection has flipped on the other side, and you can see it in the UV editor. Now if I go to my selection tool, you can see only this is selected, so only this will unwrap if I click on this. But if I move my selection on the other side as well, go back to edges, now both the ears are going to be unwrapped. So there they go. Here are my ears. Now you can see that we have overlapping UV islands in this case. So what can we do? Well, I'm going to go to my polygon selection and I'm going to deselect everything. And now I'm going to show you the new packing options. Down here in the UV packing tab, you can use the brand new geometric unwrapping. Now make sure that you have preserve orientation off for now, because I would like them to orient themselves as they wish, but I'm going to keep the equalize island size. It's going to create UV polygons similar in size. They're going to retain their actual size. So if I apply this, you will see that we are going to get a packing that retains the relationship between the object sizes and at the same time give us a very nice tight packing. You're going to see this in its full glory as we move forward. Now let me show you a few more things. I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to get my loop selection. And what you will see is that if I use my loop selection in edge mode, on islands it selects the border of the island. So we have these two ears already selected. I can shift click to select the outline of the head as well. And I'm going to proceed in this particular case, although I don't have to, by retaining my selections. And again, that's going to be to assist me with the stop at selections with my loop selection tool. So let's go and do some more selections here. So I'm going to shift click to cut out this arm on this side, and I'm going to flip my selection on the other side. So now we have both sides cut. Now I'm going to go down strategically and place a cut, clicking shift with my loop selection down here. And then I'm going to go to the back of this gentleman and shift click to select between those two edge selections. And I know for a fact that this is the best unwrapping for the back. Now I could always go and relax his back over here. So let's do that as well. And let's move downwards and see what we can do with this gentleman's feet. So number one, I'm going to shift click here to cut the two legs from each other. Fantastic. And then I'm going to go and detach the bottom parts of his feet. So I'm going to shift click over here, and you can see I've selected all the way around his left foot. I'm going to transfer that selection on the other side. And now I'm going to go right here in the inside, which is not very visible. And with my loop selection, you will see what happens is that the loop is going to go all the way around, and it's going to stop at this selection here at the top. Fantastic. And again, that's because the stop at selections is active. So let me shift click to add that, and let's just make these mirrored. And I think we're good for this part. I haven't really done anything with the hands. We're going to do it in a bit. I've added my edges, and now I'm going to click on UV Unwrap. And let's see what happens. And there you go. Everything is going to unwrap. Now, mind you, nothing is selected. That's why everything was unwrapped. If something was selected, only that something would be unwrapped. Let's go here. We can now survey all our different parts. Everything seems to be okay. If I go to my live selection, I can double click on an island. It will select the island, so I can move it around if I wish to do so. Excellent. Now these are the arms here. So let's go and do something with these arms. I'm going to go to my edge, making sure that my polygons are all deselected. And I'm going to go and invoke my loop selection tool once more, and make sure in this case to have your stop at poles. Otherwise, we're going to get some really odd loop selections. Loop selections with stop at poles and stop at selections, I think, is the most useful of these parameters. Shift click over here, shift click over here. It's going to stop all the way right here in the front of the chest. Let's go all the way around, shift click. Good, all the way around here, and then shift click here, and this will complete the two parts, the top part and the bottom part of our arm. Now there's a nice little trick I usually do if I want to make sure that I've sliced something. If you are in edge mode and go to the fill selection, you can hover and you will see the two different islands, and that's fantastic. So let's continue. And let's transfer the selection to the other side, and let's click on UV Unwrap one more time. And you will see the arms now are split in top and bottom. So a lot of artists, they can just stop here and everything seems fine. But I'm going to show you some more of the functions. How do we weld things together? So for this, I'm just going to make sure that I have no edges selected. And what I want to do is I want to weld the seam here on the back. So I want to weld this and just have one seam on the front. And I want the arm, each arm actually, to be one island. So how do I do that? Well, go to your Move tool. Let's select part of the seam. And one of the great things is that with the new Viewport options, we can actually see the seams, as you can see here, and we can even change their color. So let's go and make them green, which is a bit more fun color. So go to your Preferences and go to Scheme Colors and go to Texture UV Editor Colors. And somewhere down here, it should have the seams, UV seams color. And I'm going to select this and I'm going to make them green. And maybe a bit darker or a bit lighter, whatever I like. I can make them, or blue, anything that helps you visualize better what a seam is. Actually, I'm going to use this color here, just to irritate you. Anyway, so we have our edge selection tool selected on our Move tool. So I'm going to select an edge on that seam. I'm going to go all the way up here, and I can either Command-Shift-Click to select everything from that edge to this edge, or I can use my loop selection as I did earlier. Now with this edge selection, and you can see they're represented down here, over here, and over here. So we can actually see what's connected to what, although there is a mode to see that, and that is UV connectivity. And now, color-coded, we get the edges that are attached to each other counterpart. So let me turn this off again, and let's go just back to seams. Excellent. And what I'm going to do now is transfer that selection over to the other side. And I'm going to use another tool called UV Weld and Relax. this is going to weld the edges that were seams, and it's going to do a relaxation after that. And there you go, we have the top and bottom welded. So let's make sure nothing is selected. Let's go back to the UV packing and apply a nice little geometric packing, and there you go. And let's go and do this for the feet. So I'm going to go down here, and let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my edge mode. I'm going to select this over here and go all the way around and press Command Shift click. I'm going to transfer this, and I'm going to UV Weld and Relax, and we are going to attach the feet, the bottom parts to the top parts. Deselect everything, make sure nothing is selected, and go here again, geometric, apply, and we're going to have a nice little packing. Now, for some reason I realized that I don't want my ears to be disconnected, so let's very quickly go and attach them. Live Selection tool, zoom into your ears, double click to select the island, shift double click to select the island, and do a UV Weld and Relax. Now that we're in polygon mode, it will weld those polygons to where they belong. And there you go. Here they are in their place. Double click here, we'll select this island. So let's go and do some final tweaks. I'm just going to eyeball this and orient it properly. So double click here, and I'm going to go to my UV gizmo, zoom in a bit. Let's make the window a bit bigger, and I'm going to rotate this way. Good. I like this. Then I'm going to use my live selection to double click here, get the UV gizmo one more time. Let's rotate this way. I can zoom in and sort of place it a bit better. Good. And let's go and get the feet. I want to see which foot that is. That's the left foot. So I'm just going to move this over here. Actually, it's the other way around, so I may put it on the right. I'm going to put it over here, then double click here. Just want to survey these and see how they look. This arm here will go and point that way, and this arm here is going to point that way. Good. So I've done my little orienting. Go to my move tool to get rid of the UV gizmo, deselect everything, and again geometric apply. And now everything is going to be really tightly and nicely packed. Undo. So you saw it rotated everything. I'm going to undo. That's a typical mistake I do all the time. You need to set the preserve orientation. This setting will avoid rotation when packing. So it will retain whatever rotation has been set. And there you go. It just did the packing, and it's nice and tight. The last little bit of this tutorial is how do we actually align something, for example, the face, not by using eyeballing, but by actually using the geometry. We are going to do this by using the new pin workflow. So first of all, I'm going to double click on this so we can have the gentleman's face. Let me do this. I'm going to press S to view selected. And this is what I'm going to do. Number one, I want to make sure that I have the whole selection selected, the seams. So I'm going to go to my loop selection and select everything around here. Right, there you go. So everything is selected. Then I'm going to go to a front view over here, and I'm going to make sure with these polygons selected that I get a frontal projection. And this will actually project from that view and give us everything in the right proportion. The next thing is I'm going to go to my points. I'm going to select the points I think are important to keep in place. So I will go and go here. I'm going to select the eyes. I can deselect these. I'm going to select here, underneath here. And I think part of the mouth here is important to keep in place. These are the features I want to keep. I'm going to select this. And then I'm going to go and just mirror the selection. So with these points selected, I'm going to go and add UV pins. The pins are very explicit. I can remove pins, I can clear the pins, but now I'm going to keep them as they are. And now I have my polygon selection. So these are the polygons I'm going to apply the operations to. I have my edge selections, which are going to be my cuts, and I have my pins. So make sure in the UV Unwrap that we have all these three active. Press OK, and there we have the face. Let me clear my UV pins. Let me deselect all the polygons, and let me zoom out ever so slightly and frame this properly. Go to the UV packing and use geometric. make sure that preserve orientation is on, equalize island size, apply, and there you have it. The face is absolutely straight and symmetrical, the features have been retained, and everything else has been nicely unwrapped. And if you want to survey if there are any problems with your mesh, you can go and use your view filters here and see if there are any overlapping polygons. If you can't really see anything here, just make sure to remove the UV mesh, and you can only see the seams or any overlapping polygons that may occur. So for example, if we had an overlap over here, you would see it with the red color, so it's very obvious when you get rid of those lines. And I think that our UV mesh now is ready, and we can use it to create our textures in our 3D painting software or in Photoshop or anything else. I hope you enjoyed this, and we're going to have more tutorials about the new UV workflow in Cinema 4D S22.